going on? All right, we are recording. Welcome again to the July 23rd episode of the community meeting for the Agones project. I'm doing my podcaster voice because I know we're recording. So, stuff we want to talk about. Stephen, what's been happening this week that I haven't seen because I've been on holiday?
It just seems quite a few test failures, but not related to the changes. So I think actually, Robbie had some identified some of them. I think the static resources. I think some of the C++ build section was failing as well.
Oh, fun!
But yeah, it always seems unrelated to the change.
We have had some flakiness for sure recently. I thought I fixed a bunch of it before last release, but if there's more stuff. Do we have tickets for some of this flakiness that's showing up? Or individual things?
I have created for HTML test one ticket. Because it shows success even if it's broken. So,
oh, that's not good.
Yeah. With an example in Cloud Build.
Is that my fault for putting in retry logic, or is that maybe something else?
Not sure yet.
Probably my fault. Okay.
I think. Well, the good news is it's new tests that are failing. So
it's a constant battle.
Yeah.
Especially with the big complex. It's this system seems to have got to the point where it's big and complex enough that it's like, oh, come on. I feel like you're playing whack-a-mole sometimes. Definitely.
Oh, wait.
What's that? Alex was going to say something, and then he disappeared. If we never hear from him again, I'm going to be worried.
I think sometimes I find it difficult to figure out where the test is failing as well. There's a lot. I mean, there's so much going on. I mean, it's just that old thing of reading logs properly. But
Alex, were you going to say something?
No, I mean my phone was.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
What was I going to say? Stephen, some of that's hard around like, how can we...
I think I'll try and extract out what I think the test failure is and into the ticket. Actually,
yeah,
I just updated the alpha branch and it just passed. So
everything's fine.
Yeah, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, that's a good question about how we can make it more obvious, like where and how tests are failing. That's a good question. I know I have like certain habits that I have for like end-to-end tests are usually like really easy. Those ones can be the flaky ones just because like I know to search for fail : inside those to find the test that's flaking inside there. And you're like, oh, it's that specific test. But like sometimes I know like conformance tests for me, I often find like, I know they've been kind of flaky recently in certain things, but trying to work out which one failed and how. We've done some updates on that, but it's not necessarily obvious on that for sure. About why it's failed or how. We have Alex, you wrote one of those. There was a ticket for like conformance. Oh, maybe not.
No.
I know the conformance stuff sometimes just randomly it's just like, no, I didn't get anything, even though it looks like it really did. I've seen that one a few times. I don't know if that's still continuing.
Yeah, I seen not SDK conformance was failing today.
Yep. Or like Go and Rust sometimes. I think it can be good to look for the make target that fails. That can be usually a good indicator as well to see if that gives you some stuff. Yeah, flaky tests. I wish that was a good answer there. We should just not test, and then there's no flaky tests, and everything is fine. Everything passes always.
Or we just get stuck in that where we close and reopen the pull request until they pass.
Hit retry. Just hit retry lots.
Oh, we got retry now. Ah, good.
Yeah, usually, people who have admin access to the project can hit retry. Alex has a good trick where he'll do a git commit amend with like a new date, and then repush it, which doesn't change anything but forces the CI to kick in again, which is a little hacky, but it works if you need to force a retry. I feel like also off the top of my head. That's one thing. Cool. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on flakiness stuff. If we can do some stuff there to help things. I'm hearing silence. All right.
Probably to emulate this, so we should have similar VM or and run it 20 times. Hopefully, it would be flaky again. I mean, to locally reproduce, it's usually hard on PC. Yep. Possibly on VM, it would be easier.
Yeah, some of them are rough too. I feel like some of them I've run into where it's sort of like when this thing happens to be running at the same time as this thing, then they happen to collide in a certain way. But if you run it in isolation, then it never fails. Or the CPU is getting overloaded by this much, which has made this thing slower, which means that this finally kicks in, but sometimes it doesn't in others. Yeah, that's why that can be really tough. It's running on we bumped it up to 32 core. What is it running now?
Mm-hmm.
It's running on something. Shave some time off because we do so much. Here's an interesting question that I'll ask. I've kind of deferred it. Is this a good reason to maybe start to split things either into their own repos or their own good reason to split things into maybe into their own cloud build steps, which is before the step we need to do before probably with conditional.
Yeah, and also split out Terraform probably, or make a copy of, because we git clone multiple times. And for game servers, it could be even number of clusters, so it could be 8, for example, if you have 4 clusters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like first step is we can maintain the mono repo, but we could have multiple cloud builds that run with some of them being conditional. And then that would let us to also split out. Because then once we've split that infrastructure out, that would actually be a lot easier, if that makes sense. So like if like a classic, I think, example would be like if the site's not updated, then don't run those tests. Which would mean then, if Steven's doing stuff on Node.js, then there's less chance for flakiness because there's less things that are happening. I say that with a smiley face. there are pros and cons. Money repo and like pulling some stuff out too. But yeah, no. So like, what was I gonna say? That could also, so there's right now like Agones, like the Agones CI pipeline is like a bunch of like glue and string that makes all the sync with the GitHub repos happen, because it was all built before the actual real, what's the word I'm looking for? The real integration that exists now between Cloud Build and my brain just fell over, between Cloud Build and GitHub repos for like PRs and stuff. One of the nice features it does have is that it has the ability to say, run these tests if someone who's an owner writes like /run test or something in a comment. So like, for example, you were talking about the Terraform tests, Alex, and like they're particularly dangerous. We could have that set up, but with like an approval step, and have that be separate, even if we keep the mono repo, just to be able to do that. So there could be some nice stuff we could do there. We start to split that up. We might lose a couple of things that like doing some of the status checking and stuff would be kind of maybe a little bit trickier, but we can worry about that later. That might be a good impetus to just start splitting that stuff out, and then we can start either looking at splitting that out or having different workflows for each one. Could be kind of nice. Proper cloud build. Be good. Yeah. I think we're, yeah. Cool. That's like good stuff we should do.
Is that possible, the conditional trigger within a folder? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so you can have stuff like we do it wherein you can say like, hey, only run this branch if files in this folder that match this pattern like work. So you could say like, if there wasn't, like for example, we don't deploy the site unless there's a change to the site. Like we have that continuous process running in the background that pushes to the develop subdomain. So like that doesn't work when we've got the big cloud build script, because you can't be like, don't run this step. That's just not a functionality we have. But you could do it on individual cloud build steps. And then they could also run in parallel a lot nicer. The only thing there would be that we would end up with multiple things inside our like a Git PR where you'd see all the different ones. And it's much harder then to do the thing where like we drop a comment on, so you get the email and the notification. But we get some other benefits. So there's pros and cons. Yeah, then you could actually do the stuff where like the site tests would look for those files in site. If they get updated, then it ran, and then you would see that as an item. OpenMatch does that. They use that system, and that works pretty well for them. It's also a little harder. I don't know about within GitHub, you have certain statuses that are so like the CI runs is like required for this branch. So there might need to be a little bit more manual checking or manual knowledge of certain approvals, like certain steps are running for certain things. Like we couldn't say for everything, make sure the site tests ran, because for some PRs that won't exist. And I don't know whether GitHub will handle that. It might just be like, they weren't run, so you can't merge. And you're like, but it's not important. So we couldn't set those as required, for example. You would be up to the approver to be able to say, oh, that should have passed or shouldn't have passed or something like that. But one problem at a time. But it does solve some other issues, particularly around flakiness and stuff like that. Maybe yeah, let's try to get through this. The other thing that could be nice about splitting things up, I think, as well, is, say, for example, you want to do, you could also, we have that big Docker image, that big dev Docker image If you want to do site stuff only, a much smaller image, and like there's a sub image for that. That's the one that gets built for that, rather than getting everything. We could do some nice stuff that way. But we write a ticket for that and get stuff pulled out a little bit. Cool. All right. Anything else about flakiness stuff?
I guess with the splitting as well, you could even release patches for SDKs separately.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Like we could do separate SDK releases. Quite often, the SDKs don't change, but we do releases for them anyway.
Oh yeah, so yeah, don't even update.
Yeah, it's not changing. Like we don't have to do that work. Fun stuff. Cool. All right. Steven, you want to talk about Helm 3?
Yeah, so I was wondering if Helm 3 is now okay to use.
Helm 3 is now okay to use. We updated in last release, we updated the docs. So if you go to the Helm 3 docs, you'll see that it now has Helm 3 commands all set up. All the local development tooling now runs on Helm 3 as well. And we now have a Helm 3 Terraform provider as well. Also, Helm 3 is so much nicer to use. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it seems that Terraform issue is gone. Is waiting.
Yep.
Previously, we removed one resource of Agones release and then others. And now it's done in one step.
Yeah, writing the Helm 3 module for Terraform was so much easier. It's so good. Yeah. So nice. I'm a fan. So yes, I would definitely recommend that. I need to upgrade the probably ancillary to this, but there's a Google Cloud Game Server Helm 3, Google Cloud Game Server Terraform example that I need to upgrade to 1.7, which will also then get the Helm 3 stuff, which is nice. So yeah, I recommend. The nice thing, if anyone isn't playing with Helm 3, is if you already have Tiller installed or Helm 2 installed, you can actually run them side by side. Just make sure to remove the Agones installation, because otherwise you won't be able to install the other one and they'll collide. I've actually done that and things break. But you can just, I mean, if you want to just leave Tiller there or something like that, or leave that Helm 2, anything you're doing with Helm 2, you can still have them live side by side as long as you haven't got conflicting resources, which I thought was a nice touch. But yeah, we didn't have to change the chart or anything. It all just works. So they did a really nice job.
And what is Helm 2? I guess it's still supported, but is there will there be a point where we remove support for that?
Oh, that is a good question. That is a good question. I think at this point, it looks like the chart version, like we haven't upgraded to a Helm 3 chart version, so that like it seems like it still works fine. So I don't see us moving anytime soon. I'll say not for the near future. No plans yet to move away from Helm to chart format, because that's the only thing that is tying us to Helm 2 or Helm 3. Helm 3 has, you can do, is there a Helm 3 chart format? So I wouldn't expect us to do that without like consulting the community first anyway. Here we go. Yeah, I don't see us moving anytime soon. I think we would poll the community first and see if there's anyone still using Helm 2, and if they are, then we probably wouldn't touch it for a little while. there's no, there's nothing. I don't think we've run into anything yet that's been like, yes, you must move the new version, because unless Helm 3 makes that decision at some point.
Cool.
Cool. Stephen, it's all you today.
Yeah, sorry, last one.
No, it's fine.
I did last minute. Well, I mean, I'm just raising it. Yeah, Robert clicked the button and turned on the Depender bot.
Nice.
So it's for the Node.js dependent. I think that's just for the Node dependencies, or is it?
Yeah, I haven't seen it for anything else.
Go ones as well.
Oh, I see. And there's a PR in the queue for that
Yeah.
Lodash thingy.
But then we kind of got scared because I think when we updated the package.json, we changed the version to dev. And had we also run npm install, it would have updated package log, which I mean, it's fine. It's not publishing it anywhere anyway. It's just what's in the repo. So I think that's fine. But I think it was just we were expecting only the the dependency update to happen when Dependabot did its thing. So we have the other pull request for that. But I think it will be fine. I think Dependabot will probably keep doing that as well. We'll probably see it for other updates that it makes. But,
I guess the other point about that though, Stephen, is like your PR for alpha player tracking also fixes the issue that Dependabot was trying to fix. But that one's it hasn't merged yet, even though it's been open for over 20 days. So if we were doing a quicker review and merge cycle on that, we wouldn't have had the security alert in the first place.
Yes, yeah. I think it's nice as well that Dependabot will just take care of this stuff out, so the human PRs will be more about code changes. And just out of interest, is there a corresponding thing for like Go modules, or like how does it? You have this issue? There's no malicious code in Go.
You ask excellent questions. Actually, a really good question.
And by the way, would some npm changes happens after this automatically, or after this Lodash update?
I think it'll come down to when we do the release, the new version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. The vulnerability is still there on our published module, but I think anyone using that, as long as that dependency is not pinned in our module, then they can do npm audit.
There you go. There you
go. Just they might get a warning, but the ones that we do pin, like the regular dependencies, those would flag up. And I don't know. I think GitHub should alert us to that fact. I don't know who that notification would go to. Like if we have a pinned dependency that needs updating, then there should be an alert.
Yeah, it should look pretty. I would have thought it would look fairly similar to the ones we get already.
Mm.
Yeah, we've had to run one of those. Yeah, I can't find anything. There's like super old, back when it was moving natively into GitHub. I don't see where Dependabot actually says what languages it supports. It says it. Oh, it says it does a bunch of stuff. Here we go. Say code scanning supports both compiled and interpreted languages and can find vulnerabilities and errors in code that's written in the supported languages: C, C++, C#, Go, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, and Python. In theory, it's meant to be doing it. Do we have code scanning enabled? I assume so. Security analysis. GitHub managing security. There's a code scanning. That's not. We have to sign up for the beta to do that. Okay, maybe I'll put that as an item that we should do. I'm not going to do that now because I'm on holidays. Somebody else wants to do it. Cool. That's a good find. We should turn that on. Oh, there's a configuration file too. Nifty. Okay, cool. That's a good find. And you can tell it when you want it to do it as well. Oh, this is cool. All right. Nice. Nice. Yeah, you can. There you go. That's a dirt sock. That's a good one. All right. Made a note to turn that on. We'll see whether it finds more things. Yeah, nifty. Cool. Upgrade to Kubernetes 116 is probably my next one. Mainly around making sure that we have time to do this. Where are we? We have how long until 27th? 1, 2. We have like 2 weeks until the next release. Two and a bit. If we want to do this, we should get started. I know a few of us have had time off, which is completely and utterly reasonable.
So I think there were some bigger changes in 116. That, like, I think APIs were going away. I think last I checked, some of our Helm stuff still referenced like beta versions of APIs that are disappearing. So I think this one's a little bit more work to do than some of the other upgrades. And I know like the newer at the head end of Kubernetes releases are slowing down due to COVID. So I don't know if we want to try to squeeze this in for this next release or if we want to pause and wait one more. Yeah. I haven't checked like the EKS, AKS, GKE version supports to see if we're at the point where, according to our documentation, we should be pushing forward.
Have a look. Excellent. Yeah, I think I was going to reverse that around and say, like, if we didn't do it at this release, is that fine? Like, going to get stuck in a position where like people can't, use Agones because the supported version isn't hosted anymore. So where are we? Okay, so AKS, GKE. That's that. So that's 1.7 x. I'm not going to do that. And 16 x and 15 x. Guess is no longer a place. Here we go. Yes, it's similar. Seems like we can do it. And GKE. And why does GKE not seem to have a page anymore that says what versions it supports? Release channels, that's the page we want. Like the easiest way of doing this. We can definitely get 116 and stable. Looks like the same on GKE. That. What are we on? We're 115 now. So we're probably fine if we don't get to this release. I think. It's totally fine. I'm not in any rush. I just wanted to bring it up to make sure we were safe. Yeah, I can still get 114. I can still get 114 in GKE as well. So I think we're okay for a release if we end up skipping a release. This ticket also has. Are we still using the beta version for CRDs? I think we are.
Yeah, I think
there's
quite a few things.
Look at that. That's one. Yeah, yep.
So one thing we could do for this release, if we don't want to upgrade to 116, is we could go through the Helm stuff and move all those versions to V1.
That seems
so
like a good first step.
The work to go to 116 would be smaller, and that would be like a delta we could do that should have basically zero impact, but would help ease the work for the next time. And that seems much more reasonable to do in 2.5 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree 100%.
If we do want to do that, we should probably spin off a separate issue for just that segment, so we can mark it as fixed and have it as part of the release notes if we need to.
Yep. We should probably do a review to see outside. I don't think there's anything outside of CRDs and maybe the API extensions. They may even be separate. Need to look at how that works again. Do you remember how I wrote that? Trying to remember.
If you just search for v1 beta 1 in our repo, there's a whole bunch of places in our code, like in Golang, where we use the v1 beta 1 APIs. We might want to start migrating those over to v1 also. I don't think any of those ones necessarily are being dropped in 1.16, but we can expect that they will get dropped at some point in the future. And if there is a stable version, it would be good to move over.
Yep. Let's make a note of that. Have you got that search handy? Do you want to drop that in the notes?
Sure.
That's probably a good thing to have. Sure, that'll show up a bunch of stuff. Oh yeah, look at that. All the webhooks. Yep. Yeah. There's more in there than I thought there would be. Look at that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so some of that stuff doesn't go away in 1.16, but some might. So I know some of the YAML stuff goes away.
Yeah.
And that we can fix. Some of the Golang stuff we should start thinking about fixing.
Yeah, some of it I don't know if we're going to be able to
compatible.
fix until we update our client Go as well. Because there may not be v1 APIs that we can reference in our code yet.
Right.
This gets fun.
Yeah, usually there's a decent amount of overlap from when things get promoted to v1 and then the beta stuff gets dropped.
Yep.
So I mean, we should definitely look at it and see if there are places where we can start moving to the stable APIs. Then we won't have sort of the cliff of like, if we don't do it now, the next version doesn't work.
Yep. Yep. Should we upgrade? Do you think we should upgrade client Go first, so that we have access to the stable APIs, or is that not gonna work on 1.15?
That is a great question. Usually the client Go compatibility matrix is at least plus or minus one version. So
yeah, more so like if we try and reference the v1 APIs on 1.15, is that going to fail because they may not exist on the Kubernetes API from after?
Right. So that's a great question. So I think this is where like some of the stuff is pretty easy to bump up, and some of the stuff is going to be a little trickier. And this is where, when you said 2.5 weeks, it looked like that was not going to be enough time for us to dig through and untangle all of this stuff. There are some steps we can take in the 2.5 weeks to have us less work for the next release cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have a separate branch like for Kubernetes 1.16 and push all the changes there, and if we have then push to master or something like this? Or this would not work? I mean, because
I don't know. Do we need a long-running feature branch? I don't know. Those things freak me out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it would be like one switch. Let's use a new version, and a whole branch would go to the master.
I mean, the first step might be to just to test what we currently have against 116. Nothing's been deprecated or removed, so like if we could upgrade our stuff to 116 and start testing against it, maybe that's a good first step. Because then once we do that, then in the next release, then we can say like, I don't know, maybe that's a bad idea. I was going to say maybe we upgrade our end-to-end clusters against 116, and then we know that it's starting to work. But I don't know if that's going to start to fail for this release that we're like still supporting 115. I don't know. That's I'm not sure. Or we hold off on it all until next release and start with upgrading to 116, or doing some like non end-to-end test changes, but just testing locally against 116. That makes more sense, maybe.
So I think there are two API type changes we should be aware of. One is things that are graduating to GA, and for those things, maybe it's fine to hold off. The other is that things that were beta that are no longer going to be served by default. And those are things you have to do for 116. And those are APIs that were GA for a long time. We just never managed to change our references. So those ones should all be safe and not a big deal. So I think a lot of the stuff like in the Helm chart with CRDs, we can move to V1 and not worry about the SKU compatibility, because V1 has been supported for a while. It's the ones that are now graduating from beta to GA in 116. So maybe we don't need to jump on right away, but we could consider when it's time to move. Right?
Oh, I see. Like so the minute beta, I'm just looking at the stuff that you put in there about like apps V1, networking V1, policy V1, that stuff. That needs to be moved. Like, we can do that first. Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. And the other stuff we don't have to do for 116, but once we're on 116, we can start moving the references over.
I'm with you. It's like that stuff. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, 100%. Cool. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know if we have any of those, but it's worth looking for to see if we do.
I thought I found a couple, but maybe I was mistaken with the CRD stuff. You know, with that stuff moving to GA and finding those beta references.
Doing some local testing against 116 should identify those two, because things should just totally break. I remember we were running a beta 1 deployment for like a super long time a while ago, but I think that's gone now. All right, we have 10 minutes left. I will stop prevaricating. Alex, you had a couple of extra stuff you want to talk about.
Sorry. First one is about limiting access inside the cluster. So currently we have cluster role. Possibly we can use namespaces, and Agones controller would be allowed to use to control pods only in some namespaces. I mean, default as default one, or other, like an example, Xbox, PC, PS. So is this should be this prioritized somehow, or so we should have limited to one namespace?
I mean the ticket makes sense to me in that like more security better. And we're already specifying which namespaces people have access to anyway in our chart, because we have to set up service accounts. So it doesn't sound like it's actually a change in configuration. It's just more of a restriction of like security stuff. I don't see it as a bad thing. I think if we can try and work out how to do it, like we were talking about on the ticket about, if we can do an API surface that's the same, then that's less changes throughout, more changes, just a good thing to do. I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah. So in the next smaller one, do you have some process, some meeting or like discussion, what kind of how to pin most valuable tickets, or have a doc with all valuable and most important tickets we should focus on in this release? I think milestone, we don't use milestones a lot.
Not very much. We use this meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty much usually the way we do it, or whatever comes up and people want to work on. Has been pretty much the structure we've been using so far. We haven't been too formal with it.
Okay. So, can I pin some tickets, for example?
What should we pin?
Probably this testing for 1.16.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that now. I like that. Let's pin that one. We still have update example images with the latest everything, which we'll get done at some point.
By the way, I see that there are lots of versions. Probably we can have some one place which holds version, for example, of Golang. We manually update every file somehow. We can use Docker variables or arguments.
Yeah, I don't know what the good answer to that. I've seen that too. Yeah, we have. Like, I think we've actually got only one version now of Go across all the things. I think maybe so it's a little easier with find and replace. I don't know what the good answer is there. And some places, I think it makes sense to have it statically defined, like say in like the examples, because then it's easy to understand what's happening. But yeah, I totally hear you on like that kind of stuff. That is also a concern I have about splitting things apart. Is getting that drift between versions. And I don't. It's just, I think, a pro and con. I don't know what a good answer is there. Maybe we can do it with variables passing down. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I will write this down.
That's a good idea.
Okay, that's all from my side.
That sounds good. Oh, somebody's typing something. Oh, that's you. That's good. Does anyone have anything else on the list? Pune, did you want to talk about anything with the certs and multi-cluster allocation stuff at all? If you don't, that's totally fine. I just thought I'd ask the question.
So there was an issue that I opened for adding a default client certificate for multi-cluster allocation to simplify the process of using the multi-cluster allocation. And then a few days after, there was somebody who also opened a similar issue, saying that yeah, if there was a certificate, then it would be easier to use it. So that confirmed kind of my concern. So Nikhil, he's not on this call, but he went ahead and fixed that. He actually made a change. And then there is another ticket opened that was asking for a feature for having a limit on the amount of time retry logic and the multi-cluster retries for making an allocation. Because if when a cluster is down, or the default gRPC timeout is set to 20 seconds, and it tries for seven times. So it would take 2 minutes before the allocation fail over to the second cluster. And it would be better to provide a Helm configuration to actually set that timeout and reduce the gRPC timeout to probably 10 seconds.
Oh, I see.
So that was another issue open. The third issue that was that I'm still not sure what to do about that was around. So if there is a Helm configuration for generate TLS for the allocator service, the standalone data plane service that we have, not the basically the one that uses load balancer by default. And when the generate TLS is not set, then it defaults to a certificate from the repository. it is expected that those certificates are changed by the customer, but if somebody mistakenly used those certificates or installed that YAML, the issues, the concern and the issue was that's because those certificates are already checked in. There were some concerns about that, which I don't think is a concern because those certificates are not really usable, and therefore they are for service. Like if another service tries to impersonate that service, yes, that would be a concern. But because they're not very usable, they're dummy certificates. It should be fine. So those were just recent issues.
Search folder. Search folders from this repo. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that sounds like a documentation issue.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And Nikhil and I, we had some discussion whether there is an issue from a month or longer time ago to whether we can actually do something about allocure service certificate, for example, by using Helm chart post installation to be able to provide a self-signed certificate using the IP address of the allocator, so that the certificate is actually usable for the first time, and then have a recommendation on managing it. But we couldn't come up with a good solution. So I don't know if there are ideas.
Instead of Helm, maybe?
So that would be a second step.
Yeah, or like if
after
we updated
installation.
if you use the Terraform provider, then you get the cert rather than if you use Helm.
Can you describe the workflow in that case?
I don't know enough about. I'm wondering if Terraform gives you better hooks for waiting for when the endpoint is up to grab the
instead
IP,
of using a Helm.
Instead of using Helm to generate the cert. I mean, it'd be lovely if we could do it in Helm, but if we can't, we can't. And so I'm just wondering if we can use the next abstraction up or the next tooling up to do it.
That brings a question. So there are some Helm configurations for installing the service, right? What happens if I use a Terraform? Is there any way to set those configurations?
Some of the variables for Helm have been written into the Terraform provider. I think we actually have some PRs in the queue right now to add extra ones that haven't been added yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
good to know.
So
I didn't know about those.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think we just have some what we've chosen as optimized defaults, and then as more people need more stuff, and they just we add more stuff and with some defaults and stuff like what's the one Mo's working on? I saw it the other day. Where is it now? It's now been merged. It might actually have been merged already. Oh, subnetwork. Yeah, the subnetwork VPC stuff, for example, that wasn't exposed in any way for GKE. So we're just adding more options as we find them.
There could be an option to expose a configuration value through Helm or Terraform.
Actually, Alex, didn't you
can?
Sorry, go ahead. I think Alex set it up so you can pass the file through, right? Or values file. Can you do that, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, when I interrupted you.
Please send more details somewhere in development Slack.
Totally trying to find it. Templates. Here we go. No, I'm in the wrong spot. Version. Yeah, you can pass in a values file. Yes, you can. Haha. So there you go. You can actually have access to all of them.
Okay.
So that's a good.
Without making any change to the Terraform.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, you can. That's it.
So there could be an option that we provide DNS name as an input and generate a certificate for a DNS name. That's another option. But I don't have good option other than that one.
Sweet. All right, that makes sense. Cool. We are 1 minute over, so we should probably wrap up. So fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Cool. That all sounds good. I appreciate it. And I'll let you all go. I don't think there's anything else. Sweet. I'm hungry. I haven't had breakfast yet today. Let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.